Hi everyone, and welcome to a few days after Extra Life 2025. I say a few days after because it's not right after. I needed some days to rest. I don't know if it's just getting older, but I dealt with multiple days of what I would describe as jet lag after this event, and I'm only now just starting to feel better, and I'm like, okay, I can talk about this. I wanted to make a vlog talking about the event because I make a Extra Life vlog every single year. However, this one's different because every year up to this point, I've always filmed during the event because I've done a daily vlog. And this is the first year that I haven't been doing the daily vlog all year, which, by the way, has been an extremely positive change for me. But I still wanted to make a video talking about the event because it's still a big deal. All of the situation leading up to this event made it, let's say, memorable, because as a reminder, we were asked to move and we were going to buy a house, and then we didn't buy a house, and then we had to find another place to live, and then we ended up closing on a home. So we have a home now, which is super exciting, but like we hadn't lived here very long when Extra Life took place, which means we had to move all of our stuff and get set up for this event and host all of these people. And that made it a very challenging but memorable event. That being said, I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. It was great to see everyone again. Some people that I hadn't seen in quite some time. I think the last time I saw Juliet was in 2022, so it had been several years. So it was really, really great to have everyone here and to have them in a space that is ours, which is really, really neat. Normally, whenever I've done these Extra Life videos, like I said, they would be filmed the day of, so I would essentially be capturing the same moments that you were watching on stream, but like from a different angle. And that really, in hindsight, feels a bit like a waste. Extra Life is our most recorded event. It's like 20 hours that you can watch straight, and having me film it from a slightly different angle is not really that important. And I have to say, having gone through the event and not had to worry about filming something, it made the event a little bit more enjoyable for me. It's not that I would film a lot during Extra Life, but I would have to occasionally think of like, oh, I should be like shooting something so there's vlog footage for today. And not having to worry about that was nice. If you missed the event, it's currently up on Twitch, so you can watch it on Twitch. Dan is going to be getting it cut up into the bite-sized chunks that we always do, like by game. That'll be posted onto the VOD channel like it was last year. But I wanted to run through the games that we actually played because I think it's fun to talk about. And I have to have a list because we went through like 30 things. The first game we played was Chuck E. Cheese's Super Collection, which honestly might be one of the strongest starts that we've had for an Extra Life. The game was fantastic. And by fantastic, I mean it was funny in ways that the creators of the game certainly did not intend. Makes me wonder what kind of a person Chuck E. Cheese is. We went from there into Champion Jockey, Horses, 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 which honestly was also a very fantastic game. Sometimes the games are interesting for a variety of reasons. It could be that they are very conducive to comedy on our end. It could be that they are funny without even meaning to be. Sometimes it's also a technical marvel, and I thought the Championship Jockey fell into that camp where like there are some Wii games that you play and you're like, this looks really good for a Wii game. The Championship Jockey was like that. Next up was an interesting game choice, which was Tony Hawk Ride, because this is the second time Tony Hawk Ride has been played for an Extra Life. The third time it's been attempted to be played, period, and it still didn't work. We spent the entire 30-minute segment trying to get it to work, and it was a bit of a roller coaster of emotion. I won't spoil it for you if you haven't seen it. It's worth watching, but I'm hoping that there comes a day in the future where we will be able to play this game on stream. It sounds like we may have to play it without the lights because everything about this thing is super sensitive and it just doesn't want to work. But maybe at some point in the future we'll actually get to play it. We played MLB Power Pros 2008 again, which I love to play. It gets played basically every single year, usually with DishNet's help, and it's just very, very fun. We're also doing better this time around because, as a reminder, we played it for a few years. We lost, because you can lose, and we had to start all over. So there's been a few years now that we've been on this new save file. Things are going better, so hopefully we'll actually get through it. We played Disney's Extreme Skate Adventure. There are multiple Disney sports games on GameCube. In fact, some of the Disney sports games are amongst the rarest and most valuable games on GameCube, which is kind of weird. But I've never played Extreme Skate Adventure, and it's wild. It was actually developed partially by Neversoft and who's the other one? Activision? Yeah, Neversoft and Activision. And it shows because it's a fairly competent skating game. It's definitely, some of the controls are definitely dumbed down a little bit for children. It's not as complicated as Tony Hawk, but it's pretty good, and it's very clearly using like the Tony Hawk engine. And it's just really interesting to see like this Disney sports game that's like pretty decent, and you're playing as like Rafiki. It was a neat idea. We played Diddy Kong Racing after that, which was the only Nintendo 64 game we played this year, which I think has been pretty standard. Like when we've had the ability to play multiple generations of systems, N64 tends to get played once, maybe twice in an Extra Life. And I think my suspicion on that is that there's probably more people watching that have more nostalgia for GameCube and forward than the N64. And in fairness, I'm generally okay with that because those games perform better. A lot of N64 games have not aged super well. And even some of the games that you remember really loving have not aged all that well. But it was fun to show off Diddy Kong Racing because that is one of the really, really good ones. I hope that at some point they bring it to NSO because it's a fantastic game. I'd love to see it running at like a higher FPS. I think that'd be cool. We played Nancy Drew, the White Wolf of Icicle Creek, and we did not get super far into it, but it looks it was a pretty interesting game, and it kind of strikes me as one of these that like people might be interested in playing again next year. Because one of the interesting things about Extra Life is that sometimes we are playing games over the course of years and years and years. And if people pushed for it, maybe it's something that we could one day beat. I haven't checked the how long to beat, so I'm not exactly sure how many years it would take. But it could be something that we play again. Folks voted for Animal Crossing again, which was a little surprising to me because we showed off Animal Crossing last year, and it was my childhood save. And I really didn't think that there was much more to show for it. Also, some of these games may have gotten picked because of roulette. I don't know which ones did and did not receive big roulette piles. But we've showed off more Animal Crossing. At this point, I'm like, there really is not any more to see on that save file. So if somehow the original Animal Crossing gets played again, I'm probably gonna have to dig out a different memory card and just start a new island, or it's not an island, a new town, because there's like not anything left to do. We played Hot Wheels World's Best Driver for the Wii U, and that was unintentionally hilarious as well. There is it had some interesting control. It wasn't an awful game, but it was definitely like mediocre just to the point where it was kind of funny. And I enjoyed seeing some of the game physics for that one. We had a fun time playing that. We got to play The Sims 2 Castaway. We didn't get super far because if you're playing a Sims game, you gotta dedicate the first 15 minutes of the segment to like making The Sims. And this is another one that I think would be very fun to see again next year because currently like we're playing as Thomas walking around this desert island. And if we keep playing, we'll eventually find some other members of the Extra Life crew, but we'd have to like keep going to discover them. We got to play Barbie Dreamhouse Party, which is just this very wild party game that was not awful. Apparently it's based on a show. You'll have to forgive me because I'm not incredibly familiar with like Barbie lore. But there was this show, I guess it was called Dreamhouse Party, and the game was based on it. And it was pretty okay for a party game. Everyone was having a lot of fun. The one problem with it is it looked like the games went on too long. Like all of the mini games were like 3 minutes, and they definitely needed to be 2. Definitely needed to be 2. It might not seem like a big difference, but it is. That last minute feels like an eternity. And I wasn't even playing. I can't imagine what it felt like playing it. The Proton John community came together to push for Aquaman Battle for Atlantis for the GameCube. And originally I thought we were maybe just being trolled by Claire, but it was actually pretty cool. Like, the movement in that game was very, very unique because you're moving around in 3D space. I think if you move it like vertically too much, you could probably make people sick. But like, there was interesting combat, there was combos. It reminded me a little bit, and I'm pulling from super memory here, of like one of the Batman games on GameCube. But as far as I know, it could have been designed by the same team. You could also call animals to come hit the enemies. We didn't get to play like a ton of it, but it was pretty fun. This is another one that I'm like, oh, if we continued this next year, that would be fine. After many, many years, we finally got to play one of the Active Life games for Extra Life. These are some of the most unique games on the Wii because they require you to play on a first-gen Wii because they use a GameCube attachment. So for those that don't know, the first generation Wii models actually have GameCube ports and GameCube memory card ports. So this is a game that is for the Wii, so it requires a Wii, but you have a peripheral that it comes with that's kind of like like an NES Power Pad or a DDR mat, and you plug it into a GameCube controller port on the Wii. So this is a weird game that like, it's Wii, but we can't play it on the Wii U because it doesn't support like the Wii U GameCube controller adapter. And it was honestly very cool to watch. There's some really neat ideas that are being done in it. It's like, it's got these 2-player games in it. I don't know, it was a cool idea. It's just, I think the sad thing about these sorts of games is that these pack-ins that you play on, they're made so cheaply, and you probably wouldn't be able to play it a ton before that pad fell apart. Now, the one we had was like brand new out of box, so I'm sure it could survive a few extra lives if we, play it again. But beyond that, we'd probably have to get someone to like build something to have something that would like work a little bit longer. But it was really neat, and there's a bunch of Active Life games, so I wouldn't mind if we got a chance to look at these again in the future. The 14th game we played was Trauma Center Second Opinion. We've played this basically every single year for a long, long time. It is a game that I look forward to every year. It's a legitimately good game, but it's also just completely over the top ridiculous. The handling of sensitive subjects is done with as much sensitivity as carrying a sledgehammer through a glass mansion. It's wild. It's a very wild game, but I always love to see it. And this is actually the only game that got played multiple times, so I'll be mentioning it again at some point in this list. The 15th game was Wii Sports Resort. Classic game. We played it, and there was a few people that had not played Wii Sports Resort before, so they hadn't seen like Frisbee, which is, I think, my favorite part of the game. Also, the three-pointer game in basketball. It's a classic game. A lot of people have played it because it was kind of like how you got a Wii Motion Plus. It came as a pack-in back in the day. And if you were around back then, you'll know how much more accurate the Wii Remote got going from Wii Sports to Wii Sports Resort. Like, it's a completely different ball game. It's a really, really cool experience. We got to play The Simpsons Hit and Run, and I'm not like a big Simpsons person, but I've always been enamored with that title simply because it's such a very realistic recreation of that world. I didn't grow up watching The Simpsons. I'm a little envious of people who did, because I feel like Hit and Run is just a good recreation of that animation, of that cartoon. And I think being able to walk around digital worlds like that is so fun. And I'm sure Simpsons fans got a lot out of it then, and Mal really enjoyed playing it this time around. Barnyard got played again this year, which I mean, the first run of Barnyard was wild because no one was expecting how wild and out there it was going to be with like the squirting. Since then, I think the game is still fun, but it's opening up a lot more, and it's becoming more difficult to like traverse the world and figure out where the quests are, and it's turning into like an actual like capital G game. And I'm really curious if we continue to play this one or not. If we do, I'm wondering what other sorts of nonsense is in store, because everything about the entire series, about this entire franchise, seems out there. We got to play a Sonic game. We played Sonic Riders, which I had not played before. I think maybe we had turned it on once for like a test stream one year. But it was fun. It had a bit of a difficulty curve for sure, but by the end we were starting to get the hang of it. Just an interesting racing game that I haven't experienced before. And then we played a racing game that I have experienced before, and that was Kirby Air Ride. That was one of Juliet's picks, and they were super excited to play it. And I actually sat that one out, so I didn't play that one myself, but I've played Air Ride a little bit before. Great game. Also great time to show it off, because there's a sequel that's going to be hitting store shelves in, I think, late November. So yeah, like 20 years later, finally getting a sequel to this game. So it was cool to show off the original. I'm also realizing right now that Juliet's picks both got played and back-to-back. Wild, because their other pick was Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE for the Wii U, and they got to play that. I was also, when I saw that on their list, and especially when I saw it like being donated towards, I was like, I don't know how much we're actually going to get to see, but we managed to get to like some story. It's an Atlas game. It's long. And I was not expecting us to make very good progress in 30 minutes, but we got somewhere, so that's good. Game 21 was playing Trauma Center Second Opinion again. No problem with that. Fantastic game. Love to see it. The 22nd game that we played is one that I was really excited about because it was a pick that I've had on my list for years, and that is Pandora's Tower. Usually every Extra Life we end up opening at least like one game, because when I was going through and collecting GameCube and Wii and Wii U, I was buying games at such a rate, and this was years ago, so the games like weren't so expensive, that sometimes I just wound up with sealed games, especially for the Wii. And you know, they have never gotten played, so they've just been on the shelf sealed. And the sealed game this time around was Pandora's Tower, which is definitely the most expensive sealed game that we've opened on an Extra Life. But the cost of the game sealed versus the cost of the game complete is basically the same. I'm sure it won't always be like that, and I know I probably heard at least one person opening that game on Extra Life, but it's fine. I wanted to play it because it's a game that's like highly rated that never left the Wii. It's stuck on the Wii. We got to play, 30 minutes of it, and it was cool. Like, the story was cool, the gameplay mechanics were neat. It's a game that I really, really hope we get to play again next year, because I'd love to see where else it goes. There's many games like this too. There's several games that are stuck on consoles, like the Wii, and they've never been re-released, and that's just a shame, especially in an age now where like the Switch is getting so many ports or remakes or whatever. Like, I'd love to see some of these other games come to this console, especially because a lot of the games that have like waggle controls, the Switch will support them. So I kind of hope that these original companies consider investing some of the resources necessary to port these things to modern systems, because otherwise, modern day audiences aren't going to be able to experience them, at least very easily. And I think that's a shame. I think that's a huge shame. Game 23 was Trauma Center for the third time. Again, totally cool with that. There's been many Extra Lives where we've played a game 3 times. I think the one people probably famously or infamously remember is last year when we played Xenoblade Chronicles X 3 times. But there's actually been other Extra Lives where we've played games 3 times as well. I remember when we did Super Nintendo, we did Mega Man X 3 times, and near as a hair beat it. It was also my first time really going through that game. I have to say, though, of all of the games that we could have played 3 times, I think I and the general audience was most happy with Trauma Center being played 3 times. Also, I want to do a little shout out here for Dan. I think of all of the moments from Extra Life this year, I think my personal favorite moment probably was Dan voicing Dan in Trauma Center. There was a character that came on screen and it looked like Dan, so I just said, "That looks like Dan." And then Dan, not missing a beat, starts voicing the character as himself. It's fantastic, and the thing that pays off so much is that character is recurring throughout like that entire half hour. So it's a joke that just keeps coming back, and every time it comes back, it just hits harder. It's fantastic. It's really, really great. Game 24 was You Draw Pictionary, which was a choice from Haley. Really great choice, and then also I think it showed up at a good time of night too, because everyone was kind of getting a little crazy. That's another game I would not mind playing again. Legitimately fun experience. I think Pictionary is just a fun game. The You Draw tablet is, well, I don't want to say perfect for it because the tablet leaves a little to be desired, but mostly perfect for it. And it's definitely a segment worth watching this year for sure. The 25th game we played was Mario Kart Wii. This was after I had promised that we would show off this inflatable go-kart that Roland had found that had like come into the store. We had Thomas blow it up, not with his mouth, because I'm pretty sure in hindsight he would have died. It was off-gassing and releasing all sorts of crazy chemicals from 20 plus years ago, but he had like a bike pump or something and he pumped it up. And we got to play with it a little bit before it completely fell apart, because I mean, it's old, and also it was made very badly, and it was also made for children, which we are not. It's currently in the garage. It still has a little air in it, and anytime I've went and gotten the car to go somewhere, I see it and I'm like, "Oh, you sad little thing." That's gonna go in the trash soon. Game 26 was Sesame Street Cookies Counting Carnival, which I think was actually like near the top of the list before the event even started. So it did eventually get played. It's kind of weird. If you look at the history of Extra Life, of the events that we've done, almost every single year, in the wee hours of the morning, we play a children's educational game. I don't know how this keeps happening. I don't know if there is an actual effort to get these games played at this time, or if it just sort of happens and it's, completely coincidental. But this is a common occurrence, and yeah, it's, I don't know, like 5 a.m. or something, and we're playing this game that is for very, very small children. I had fun. Mal did not. She was not having a good time, and it was very funny. Game 27 was Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. This is the second time I think it's gotten shown off, maybe third, I don't know. And I think this may be the last time it should be shown off. Unfortunately, Crystal Chronicles, while an interesting spectacle, a very interesting game of its time, and I think it's aged in some ways even more interestingly because we don't have anything quite like this. You need so much equipment, and like we have the equipment, but like things tend to like go wrong, and the stuff was not working quite perfectly, and we had to like finagle some things to try and get it running correctly. And even when you do, taking the year gaps for Extra Life is really hard because you have no idea what's going on, and it's a full-fledged RPG. So trying to work on an RPG, a 4-player RPG no less, where you have to coordinate and go through a level together, so it's not like just one person running through and trying to make, progress. I think as interesting as it has been to see it on Extra Life, I can't imagine it showing back up and being... And us making any, considerable progress in the game. I don't control what people donate towards, and I don't want to be in control of that. I want people to feel free to be like, hey, I want this game played and we're gonna do it. But I do worry, because I'm like, I just don't think that Crystal Chronicles is a game worth showing off again. If people want to see the 4-player, GCN, GBA link compatibility stuff, I think a much more interesting game that we have seen on Extra Life before, but I would love to see it return, is Pac-Man Versus. That's a good choice. I think there's also some other games that we could do Four Swords, which I think would also be a reasonable choice. But Crystal Chronicles, for as interesting as a concept as it is, I think the year gaps and the setup are probably not conducive to making progress. Probably didn't help that we were playing it at 6 a.m. either. Game 28 was Amazing Island. It shows up almost every year, and I think it was a really good Amazing Island segment this year, because Juliet got to create a creature, since this was their first Extra Life, and they managed to make a cute creature, which I didn't know you could. We've always just made this weird, hideous thing, and they decided to make something that was actually adorable, and I was like, oh my god, you can make something cute. We've never tried that before. Instead, we've had Skin Dog, so it's good to know. Then if it gets played again next year, we'll probably maybe try and focus on making progress in the game, because it's been a few years since I think we've made any sizable progress on the the minigame portion. So maybe we'll push for that, because we always make creatures, and that's very fun and funny. But we should probably also try and beat the game eventually. We're probably heading at a decade of this game, and we have not beaten it. Game 29 was Pets Cats 2, which was a very interesting game. There was way more going on than I expected. I think the worst part about that game was the time it got played. I think it got played too late, because we were all really, really loopy, and I think I would have loved to have seen it played a little earlier. Hopefully it'll get played again, because it seems like there's... Sorry, we're gonna eat rice. That's the rice sound. Really excited for rice. Yeah, Pets Cats 2 was interesting. It reminded me a little bit of The Dog Island, which we played at a different Extra Life, but less depressing. On that note, I hope we play more of The Dog Island. The Dog Island was insane. It's these cute little dogs, and it's telling this really sad tale that's super dark. I'd love to see that too. Game number 30 was a game that has been pushed for year after year after year and has never managed to get played until this year. It had almost $4,000 donated towards it, and that was Kamen Rider Dragon Knight for the Wii. Another game that is a little surprising at how good it looks. Looks really good. We didn't really know a whole lot about Kamen Rider, but we got a chance to play it, and I hope that we made fans of the series and people that had been donating towards it happy, especially since it got played after all this time. Reminded me a little bit of for the longest time, people really wanted a wrestling game to be played on Extra Life, and people would push year after year after year, and then finally it happened. It feels like that. So Kamen Rider fans, I hope that you enjoyed the segment. It was cool to get a chance to see that, and then also, again, a really good looking Wii game. And then the very, very last game that we played for Extra Life 2025, it was closing in on 8 a.m. It was going to be our 31st game, which is a lot. I mean, getting to the 30 mark on games, that's a lot of games. And we had WarioWare Smooth Moves with over $2,000. We had Indiana Jones for the N64 with over $2,000. We had people pushing for these games. And then I did a thing where I said, hey, if roulette has more money than either of these things, we will run roulette for the very last game, and that caused a lot of people to push, and we ended up running roulette. I always feel a little bad about that because, like, especially in the case of Indiana Jones, I know that there was largely like one person pushing for Indiana Jones. But I also have to remember that, like, my role in all of this is to try and raise money for the Children's Hospital. So I'm like, all right, I have to do what I can to raise money for the Children's Hospital. If I can get people to donate, a lot of people to donate just a little bit of money, that'll be an extra several $1,000s for the children. So that's my mentality in that. So roulette ran, and the very last game we played was probably one of the best games that could have been played at 8 a.m. It was Tetris Party Deluxe, which I like to call Tetris with the feet, because it is a Tetris game you can play with the Wii Balance board. We did it for Extra Life several years ago. It hasn't gotten played again since. Other people got a chance to try it. It was a wild game to end on. And the other thing was that it really woke people up because, like, it's 8 in the morning. We've been going for 20 hours. We have to move the furniture in order to do this game. So people were like waking up, and we got a chance to do that, and then we said goodbye. So all in all, we raised $90,000 something dollars. I wanted to let people know right off the bat. I say right off the bat, but we're like super far into this video. I want to let people know at some point that donations are still open until the end of the year. I understand that the event is over, but if people still want to donate to a charity, I don't know, maybe you do a donation every year and you get the tax write-off, etc. Consider making it to Extra Life. We had our goal set at 110,000, which, to be perfectly honest, me and Chaz did not think that we were going to hit, but I still insisted on setting it there because that was the midway point between this year and next year hitting $1 million. We were $220,000 away at the beginning of this event from $1 million. So I was like, well, if we do 110 this year, 110 next year, we'll hit $1 million overall lifetime end of next year. We didn't end up hitting 110, but we hit 90, which is still very, very incredible considering, you know, everything that happened. And Extra Life, I did my best to advertise Extra Life this year, but I don't think advertised it as much as I do in typical years because everything else is going on. And we did it earlier than we've ever done. So we had some people showing up on game day on October 4th that were like, oh, I had no idea Extra Life was going on. I'm so glad that I, managed to catch it. And I have a feeling that like in late October, there's going to be people like, isn't Extra Life soon? And it's like, no, it already happened this year. But yeah, if you're looking to donate to something, consider boosting those numbers a little bit more, because right now we're in this weird spot where I think next year we will maybe still try and push to get to a lifetime of $1 million. And if we can make that number easier to achieve, that's helpful. The other thing I wanted to mention, because this happens every year, but I think a lot of people still don't know about it, is that you can do, if your employer supports it, you can do employer matching for donations. There's a lot of different companies that do it. At the end of the year, every year, we get more donations to Extra Life from companies. So like we'll get a message that'll be like, well, Microsoft donated $1,000. And it's because someone else donated $1,000 back during Extra Life. They filled out a form for their company that was like, hey, you guys do donation matching, maybe up to a certain number. This is who I donated towards. I want you to donate towards it too. And then your company, if it supports it, will do that. That's fantastic, because that means it's, that's more money for the Children's Hospital, which is awesome. And it makes trying to hit $1 million next year even easier. So if you donated to Extra Life this year, definitely look into that if you don't know if your employer does that or not, because it's more money for the hospital, which is awesome. And yeah, I think that's it. Overall, I had a wonderful time. It was definitely a little hectic given the fact that we had just moved and are still moving it. Like, we have this curtain up to hide the fact that the room back there is just full of crap. Eventually, we'll have this place looking, really good. But I still had a lot of fun. I'm still very proud of the fact that all of you came together to raise $90,000. That's an astounding amount of money. And I'm always excited to do it again next year, and we will. Next year will be our 15th year. The current lifetime total, because I have these numbers internally because it'll actually tell me like on my Extra Life dashboard, is $870,000. That's where we're at, $870,000. So we are $130,000 away from $1 million lifetime total raised for the McLeod Children's Hospital in Florence, South Carolina. Amazing. There have been years that we raised $130,000 in a single year. So it's not impossible, but it's always one of those things that like, it's still a big ask. So that's why I mentioned like the employer matching. That's why I mentioned, you know, if you or a loved one or someone is looking to do a donation this year for tax purposes, etc., consider doing Extra Life, because that will make it a little easier to hit next year. And we'll just do what we can. If we hit it next year, awesome. If we don't, it doesn't matter. We're still trying to make a difference, and all of you are. The amount of money that you have raised over these 14 years is incredible. And we will continue to do our best to make a difference in that community. So thank you all. Okay, I have rice that I'm gonna eat. I know that all of you have been waiting for the tea surrounding the old house. That will be the next video I make. So stay tuned for that. Next video, asterisk, barring any, I don't know, unforeseen tragedy or circumstances. But I'm planning to make that the next video, and you will get that soon. Thanks for watching. Let's meet back soon, shall we?